we will be talking about the current pain points. And I want to talk to a pain point that for you guys, it's incredibly difficult. But back again to this idea about what is something normal in development in all of the age groups and what it looks like, right? So for a human being to develop in the future, right? In the future, the ability, the social emotional competency of self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, and relationship skills, I have to be able to have the skill of frustration tolerance, right? So how do I break these two things up? The social emotional competency of self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills is like a preschooler walking, right? But we don't walk right away, right? It takes from the moment that we're born, where we do tummy time, and then we pull up on the furniture, and then we toddle on the furniture, and then we let go. So frustration tolerance for this social emotional later thing that they should develop by the time they're 25 years old is frustration tolerance is like tummy time, right? Without tummy time, without doing that swaying back and forth, the child doesn't crawl and the child doesn't walk, right? So without frustration tolerance, I'm not going to develop relationship skills. I'm not going to develop social management. I'm definitely not going to develop self-awareness and self-management. So what does frustration tolerance look like? And what are you going to ask me about in 10 minutes? Well, frustration tolerance in children under 5 years old is those tantrums, right? What are they frustrated about? They're frustrated about you pulling them away from pleasure, like from playing or from being with you and then having to take them to school. So they get frustrated and sad, so they break down into a tantrum. Frustration tolerance, what does it look like in children between 5 and 7, right? The ones that there's a lot of them here. Well, when they're doing homework, right? And they just came back from school, for me to be a good student, for me to study for the test, for me to be able to manage the work in front of me, I have to tolerate the frustration of doing the work. All of us, yesterday, Tuesday, with Monday, a day off, right? We had to write those emails. We had to swallow and manage our frustration to write that email, to make that sales call, to wake the kids up in the morning and get them ready for school, right? So in the 5 to 8 year olds, their frustration, their lack of frustration tolerance looks like them telling you that they don't want to do their homework, looks like them telling you that they don't want to brush their teeth, right? Because all of those things make us stop our pleasure. Now, for children 10 to 14, right? So that 5th grade all the way to 8th grade. Frustration tolerance looks like if they're doing virtual school, all of a sudden they are looking at a YouTube video game personality person. True story that happened in my house to my own 12-year-old, right? And the inability to manage their patience and their frustration to listen to the math teacher makes them hide a YouTube video while they're doing virtual school, right? Their inability to tolerate their frustration of having to follow your responsibilities that you have given them makes it so they put all the dirty stuff underneath their bed, and then when you look under there, you're like, oh my God, holy Jesus. So these are solutions to them trying not to feel frustration. So, okay, I get it, Lina, right? And then for the high schooler, their frustration tolerance should be able now to to push through and study, to push through and kind of like have responsibilities, right? Anybody ninth grade and older, they should be managing most of their responsibilities most of the time, right? But every once in a while, they'll have good and bad days. And it's usually their inability to kind of like, tolerate that their math teacher is, kind of pushy, or tolerate you and your rules and your COVID fears, right? So that's when their lack of frustration tolerance shows up for, ninth grade and older. So Lina, what do I do? You just told me that it's normal. You just told me that that's why parenting, that's reason 882 why parenting is so different and difficult. What do I do? Well, for the littles, name it. You're so frustrated. You don't want to stop playing. You don't want to take a shower. Then silence. You start breathing. Let them scream bloody murder. Wait. Most children under 5 will come in for the hug. You pick them up and then you walk them to the bathroom. For the 5 to 8-year-olds, right? And they don't want to do their homework and they don't want to do any of the responsibilities of like making their bed and picking up, right? Because to do that, I have to feel frustration. Name it. Again. Yes. It's so frustrating. It's so hard. You don't want to do math homework, but it's part of being a student. So let's take a deep breath and let's wait for the frustration to pass, and then just rub their back. Don't give them a long monologue and soliloquy about how math is so important and homework is so important. And last week you got a C in that test. No. Yes, this is frustrating, but we have to feel it. So let's work on calming you, right? And then 10 and above, right? Now that's a deeper conversation. All right, you got bored in the classroom and you put on the YouTube video. So what was happening there? And then it's more a discussion, a conversation, a back and forth, right? Again, I told you it was a true story in my house. So true story in my house. In the moment when I caught him, I said, okay, we're done. I didn't talk about it to him at all for a good 24 hours. And then 24 hours later, me and my co-parent, we both sat down and we spoke to him and we said, okay, walk us through your decision making. And this is good for 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Not, this is ridiculous and this cannot happen and this is why I don't let you do YouTube. If you're doing that to anybody 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, you've lost them. 10 and above, I want you to become that processing voice. I want you to become that therapist, right? To say to them, hey, what was the thought process, right? In my kids, the teachers gave the kids in the classroom time to do work that everybody was behind. So mine decided that he was going to put pleasure first and do what the teacher had asked him to do during school time at homework time, right? So then since I found that out, I was like, all right, buddy. So this is a conversation on doing the hard things first, so you have pleasure and free time later. And it became a conversation about pleasure. So when you have a 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and especially a 16-year-old, walk me through what you were thinking when you made this decision. And, his decision was, well, right now she's giving us free time. So I keep thinking about this game that I want to figure out. So I'm going to do this now because I'm going to do that for homework later. And it was an opportunity for me to say, well, you could do that, but then now you're going to have really, really late homework. And today, remember that there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it was both, it allowed me to be able to teach him about delaying pleasure so that you could have more time later, as well as planning. But if I just go in for the jugular and I tell them that this is stupid and this is why I don't let you be on a screen and I'm going to send you to school tomorrow and you can't do virtual anymore, there's no moment for education. So What am I saying with frustration tolerance? With frustration tolerance for the children 10 and younger is naming it for them and breaking their hearts and letting them know when you do things that are hard, like homework and schoolwork and following rules, you have to be okay with feeling frustration, right? So you're naming it and you're telling them what it is. For children 10 and older, hopefully you've done the work prior to. Now you're saying, okay, you couldn't tolerate your frustration. You couldn't be patient. So what happened? Walk me through it. Why? Because their brain is trying to make decisions. So that's how you handle that. Now, the next pain point, impulse control. So some statistics on impulse control. Number one, nobody under 5 years old has impulse control. We can set up routine and set up rules and set up, consistent ways to respond to them so that they have some impulse control, but we can't expect it. You cannot expect impulse control in anybody under 5 years old. So forget it. Have you heard of the Marshmallow Test, where they put one marshmallow in front of the child and then they tell them if you don't eat it, you're going to get a second one, but you have to wait a minute and a half, right? That test helped us understand, the inability to have impulse control in the different age groups. Children between the ages of like 5, maybe 9, have impulse control 40% of the time. And if your child has zero problems at school, but then when they get home, they're like a Tasmanian devil and then they can't control their impulses, that means that they're using that 40% of impulse control at school, which is great, because that's if they're going to choose where they're going to control their impulses and they choose school, that is a smart choice for anybody kindergarten to 5th grade, right? And then impulse control for 10 and above is somewhere around 60% of the time they can control their impulses. So from today moving forward, everybody raise your right hand and say, I promise to never ask again, why were you doing this? How many times do I have to tell you? What were you thinking? Why were you doing it? How many times do I have to tell you? Or why, what were you thinking? I want you to take that out of your mouth and throw it into the garbage can, because that's a waste of time. Because when you say, why are you doing this? How many times do I have to tell you? And what were you thinking? You're basically telling them you should have impulse control, but they don't. And when you do that, they defend themselves because you're asking them a question based on a belief that somehow they can control their impulses. So, especially for all of you guys that have children 9 and younger, it's a conversation of how to control the impulse, right? How to not lie about not doing homework, right? How to not take $5 out of your purse so they could buy the junk from the vending machine at the middle school. How to, name something that they couldn't control their impulse, right? So again, and the way that we talk about impulses is that we, one, communicate what we imagine they couldn't control, right? And the goal. So for example, you lied to me about not having any homework because you had just gotten the magnet tiles and you really wanted to play with them, right? So talk to their goal and their thought, what you imagine is their goal and their thought process of why they lied. 2, say to them how you imagine they felt. You didn't want to feel frustrated, and then how you felt, and I was really disappointed that you lied to me. And then 3, tell them what to do next time. So next time when you get a new toy, maybe what we can do is that we can set the timer and you can play with your new toy when you get home from school for 20 minutes. Then we'll stop it and then you could do homework next. And then, you could take breaks, like 5-minute breaks during your homework to play with your new toy. Again, going in for punishment, going in for what were you thinking? Why do I have to tell you 3 times? It's punishing them for something that they cannot generally do. impulse control in adolescence, it's for the, because I saw that there was a couple of you that had older children. Leave them alone. Don't become a detective, especially when it comes to homework, right? A lot of them like seek pleasure and then they don't do their work. Let them fail, especially the middle schoolers. I'd rather they not do their work and mess up a project in 7th or 8th grade than in 11th or 12th grade. Right. So those of you that have middle schoolers and their lack of impulse control makes them not do the homework, makes them lie to you so they could get on Roblox instead of doing the homework. I want you to let them fail. Okay. The colleges look at their transcripts from sometimes 10th grade, but definitely 11 and 12 and older, right? So don't worry. So again, impulse control and their lack of the impulse control is why they break your rules and why they're having a hard time. So remember, when they do speak to their goal and what they were thinking, their feeling, your feeling, and how you would want them to handle it next time. And the same rule applies for this as for frustration tolerance, right? If they're younger than 9, you tell them how you want them to manage it. If they're older than 10, you can say to them, well, what do you imagine you can do next time? And allow them to give you ideas about the next time. And finally, a lot of your questions and a lot of your concerns with your children, especially those of you that have children that either are being constantly oppositional or constantly being on top of you and checking in on you and making sure that you're somewhere, and they're acting overly anxious or overly oppositional, because these are the two separate. A lot of the time when somebody has a parenting consultation with me and the child is either always checking in on you, or the child is either constantly oppositional and not following direction and has challenging behavior, it's usually because of a caregiver's mode. Now, this one's hard, so take a deep breath, because I'm going to talk directly to you guys, and it's going to feel really, really uncomfortable. It's going to make your butt cringe. I'm naughty that way, for those of you that don't know me. So your child in all age groups, no matter how old they are, they take their safety cues from us, even that one of you that has a 15 plus old year old. So if you have been stressed out, moody, either irritable or, with lack of energy and depressed, know that your children are watching. This is especially true for those of you that have children 7 years and younger, right? So that phrase of like self-care, and everybody like, I see all the little silly Instagram memes and designs and whatever pictures of like bubble baths and this and that. Self-care is important, but it has to be practical when you're a parent. And when you're a parent, it's really important to be mindful of, wow, I'm really stressed out. I'm really scared. I'm really anxious. So what do I have in front of me today with my children, right? Those of you that have the littles, it is incredibly important to simplify on those days when you know that if one more thing drops, you're going to lose your mind. And what I mean by simplify is that's the day when you use the frozen chicken tenders that are in the freezer, right? Or the day where, you get some ordering some food. That's the day where you look around at the adults and the caregivers around you that help you, and you tell them, I'm having a really, really hard day. I'm going to need an hour today. So can you, watch a movie or whatever, and have that other person in your life life, whether you're a single parent or whether, you know, you live in a blended family with abuela and tia and everybody in your house. That's the day where I want you to take your temperature and I want you to hand this little tiny body to another human being. You are not the best person for them when you are having a really shitty day. Again, I'm naughty. I'm sorry for the bad words. So, because your child is going to act up, right? Our children are constantly trying to figure out how to finish circles of connection with us, right? Let's say, Lina, you live in a dream world. I'm a single parent. I have no one. It's just me. Okay, got it. Okay, how do we help that? We let the children know, but not like this, not mommy's having a really hard day, so I need everybody to listen. No, because now you're burdening your children with your stuff. Rather, you can say, uh-oh, mommy's cuckoo bananas today. So if you see my face different, or if you see me moving too fast, or if I answer too abruptly, no, it's because mommy is handling her yucky feelings on the inside, right? And then your kid will go, okay, right? Or for example, for a lot of you, especially those of you children 9 and younger, will be like, are you okay? That's one where your child is picking up on your mood. Another one that your child is picking up on your mood. Mommy, be happy. Mommy, are you happy? Mommy, be happy. Your child is picking up on your mood. Or straight up, mommy, you're mean, or just hyper. If your child is crazy, Tasmanian devil, before you say one clean sentence to your child, take a look at the mirror and wonder, whew, have I been screaming more today? Did I sleep? Did I pee? Did I eat? How much water have I drank? Then go pee, go drink, go throw some peanuts in your mouth, and then handle the Tasmanian devil. See, a lot of the time you want to handle the Tasmanian devil because that's what in the moment is the last thing that makes your mood explode. But I'd rather you use your mood and let that little thing be like, blah, and then address them. In the moment, when you're like in the middle of the moment, in the middle of the whirlwind of kids and the chaos, and you're having a bad day, this will take 45 seconds and I'll prove it to you. Right now, it's like 40. It's gonna be when the timer goes to 29 minutes. I'm gonna start a little tiny body scan so you guys can prove to yourself that this practical self-care is actually really good. So let's start scanning our body. Feel your feet. Is there any tension there? No tension. Breathe. All right. Feel your calves. Is there any tension there? No tension. Breathe. Let it go. Feel your thighs. Is there any tension there? Loosen it. Breathe. Let it go. Your hips. Is there any tension there? Breathe. Let it go. Your stomach. Is there any tension there? Breathe. Let it go. Your breasts, your shoulders. Is there any tension there? Breathe. Let it go. Top of your head. Is there any tension there? Breathe, let it go. Your jaw, is there any tension there? Let it go. 48 seconds. If your child is screaming, if the siblings are fighting, if you're in the pickup line at school, if you just got an email from the teacher, 48 seconds, scanning your body from your feet to your head, will bring you back into present and will take you out of the mood. And then it will make your child not respond to you. All of you guys know that when you're having a bad day, your child will also have a bad day. Unfortunately, reason 982 why parenting is difficult and messy. All right, so now I go for 30 minutes answering the questions from the group. So I'm gonna see if there are any raised hands. I don't see any raised hands. So I'm gonna go in for the Q&A block. Okay, so in the Q&A block, there is a question. And the question says, thank you so much for these webinars. Do you have a pediatric nutritionist that you recommend? I do have one. And right now, off the top of my head, I don't remember her name. Hi, 49. So usually after these talks, I send kind of like a little short snippet on what we talked about, and like kind of links to help you guys. So look out for it in your email. And if you're not part of my email list, make sure to text the word ready to the number 66866, and you will become part of the email list. And I will make sure, I'm writing a note right now, to give the name of the nutritionist that I like to recommend. So thanks for your question. Okay, let's see. I'm gonna go over here to the chat boxes and see what's there. Okay, so the question over here says, my daughter is 9, the middle child of 2 brothers. She cries at everything and is annoyed at everyone and everything. Mean to her little brother, lost interest in playing with her friends, and she is unhappy. When we asked her, what can we do to make it better? She says, I don't want to do anything. I just want to be alone. She spends a lot of time on phone and iPad playing games and talking to a friend on FaceTime in another country. Okay, so I am making an assumption that if she's talking to a friend in another country, that you just recently moved here. So if you just recently moved here, what your child may be feeling is the pain of the transition, the pain of the difference. Now, when a child is showing us that children, when they feel depressed or out of sorts, which again, guys, we're coming up on a year of living in this pandemic world. So for some kids, this is getting to them, right? So it is important to not leave her alone, but also not like overwhelm her with questions. So because there's a very, very middle line, right? So children that are sad or kind of leaning on depressed tend to be more irritable. I always tell children that anger is the bodyguard of difficult emotion. So, it's when she is mean to her brother, right? You have to walk in and say, whoa, 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 right? And whenever a sibling is not kind to another sibling, we don't only speak to one of them, we speak to both of them, right? So I'm going to make up a story. Usually a 9-year-old will pick on a younger sibling because the younger sibling is either copying them, or the younger sibling is walking in and like breaking some kind of privacy barrier, right? So in that moment, you could, let's say that it's a privacy barrier, and you have to go in and you say, uh-oh, Luis, your sister is taking some time to herself, so it's not okay to just open the door and knock. And hey, remember that you can't scream at your brother Luis. That's not kind. But I understand that he ran in here, but that's not kind. We don't scream at our brother, right? And always speak to both siblings, their goal, their feeling, and what they could do next time. Now, back to this idea of like, she only wants to be on her phone. That sets off 100 alarms in me, Mom, because it's okay for her to have FaceTime with friends, especially in this time. But I want the screens to be predictable and part of the routine, right? She's 9. And we, the parents, are the ones that maintain their pleasure. And it sounds like she's using pleasure to avoid feeling the difficult feelings. So the other thing that I would recommend is to, during school time, for I don't know if she's going to school on campus or at home, to have moments where that phone is not in her hands, right? So bedtime on, the phone is not in her hands. And in the afternoons after school, make sure that there is a time for her to use that screen. The American Pediatric Association has a family media plan. So type APA in the Google, right? And type family media plan, and you can use that. And it's specific to you and your children, and you could put the times, and you could do, and then you could figure out when she could be on the phone and when not. If this has been going on for more than 6 months, I would recommend perhaps an evaluation, because some of the things that you're describing sounds like she is, leaning on being very, very sad and depressed, especially since she's avoiding the pain with pleasurable substitutions like the iPad and all that kind of stuff. So that is very important. So family media plan, APA, family media plan in the Google. And I highly, highly recommend that for all of you with children, so you can have a beautiful conversation about planning how and when to use the screen. All right, so some of you have your hands up, so you want to talk to me live. I love it when you want to talk to me live. So unmute yourself and ask me your question. Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you for doing this. I had a rough morning today. My son is 4 years old. My daughter's 2.5. But my son, he hadn't done this in a long time. He woke up just angry. Like, I heard him in his room and he was like grunting. And I went in and I saw your other webinar, which was very helpful. So I went in and I looked at him and I said, "You seem angry. So I'm going to let you be. And when you're ready to come out of your room or for me to come back in, you let me know." And I left. But it's a school day too. So I was like worried. I'm like, how long do I wait? Is there a point where I come back? And I'm like, dude, you're done. I come have breakfast. Like,
right.
How's it work? And is it normal? Like this anger and he went to bed at a decent time. We're very strict here. He goes to bed between 7 and 7:30, maximum 7:45 if it's like, because I have 3 little babies, so sometimes, but usually
bedtime is good for little babies. Yes.
Okay, I want them all down.
So is it normal that he wants to do that? Is it normal that he wakes up in a bad mood? 100%. He's human, right? So He has good and bad days. Also, he's a 4-year-old, so his brain is holding the memory of this new school that he's in, right? So he's feeling what a lot of us feel, which is the irritability of trying to predict what's happening moving forward. So I loved how you handled it, right? Now, when it's anger, I always, as parents, I want you guys to wonder, anger, the bodyguard, is here protecting the vulnerable emotion, right? So I want you to kind of, especially with those of you guys that have children 7 and younger, kind of like throw spaghetti at the wall of like the possible emotion. I'm thinking that you woke up a little bit angry today, but I'm also thinking that you might be feeling sad that you have to go to school because you love being at home with mommy, right? Or you might be thinking about what's going to happen at school, and maybe it's hard to share. Just throw spaghetti at the wall, just like, and any information that you can get from the teacher. Did he have a hard time sharing? Did he have a hard time in circle? If the teacher's like, no, he's doing great, that's good news. We hate to hear it as a parent, but if she says that, just know that some of that bad mood is the anticipation of what's going to happen next. So yes, we tell them, take your time, mommy's, but instead of saying, come get me, you could say, mommy is going to give you some time and mommy will be back so I can help you get ready because we're going to go to school.
Okay.
Right. So then you could predict, and then usually a young child, 5 minutes or less, right? Then you come back in and then you're like, okay, come here, let me give you a hug and let's go about our day. But
can being silly work too? Because I've broken his anger sometimes. I have this game where I use my hand. I pretend that my hand is not part of me, like it's another thing. So I go like, oh, my hand is trying to tickle you. And I say to my hand, like, no, don't tickle him. And he starts laughing. Like, that's like, he loves it. And it breaks the anger or whatever he's feeling negative and just makes him laugh and be better.
Now, post, when you come back, I want children to sit in the, lack of a better word, in the hard feeling and the negative feeling for a little bit, because emotional intelligence and self-management and self-regulation is the ability to label what I'm feeling, tolerate it and recuperate from it. So if you go in for silly too quickly, now the message to him is, oh, we got to get rid of this feeling, which is what we don't, which is what our little 9-year-old that I was answering before may be doing, right? She has decided that frustration and sadness is not a good feeling. So I'm going to be on my phone with my friends because that's what gives me joy. Because she never practiced. I'm making an assumption. I'm sorry, mommy of the 9-year-old. Like, that's a possibility, right? That's a possible future. So I'd rather a 4-year-old, so you go and go, uh-oh, you're waking up a little grumpy. Uh-oh, you're waking up with a little sadness. I'm thinking that you're thinking about school. So take a minute and I'll be right back. So then that's tolerating. That's number 2 of emotional intelligence. And then when you come back, you could be like, hey, let's get dressed. And now you could do the silly, right?
Okay.
I want him to have that moment of sitting in the juju, sitting in the negative emotions, so he doesn't get a message that those feelings are dangerous.
Okay.
Okay. And just keep that up.
Thank you so much.
Perfect. All right. Okay, let's go back to the Q&A box. Let's see. Okay. My daughter is 10, and when we try to have a conversation with her, she resorts to crying or screaming. We don't get anywhere with a conversation. What can we do? Okay, so if she's crying or screaming, okay. Mind your mood when you're speaking to the child. So if she's crying or screaming, it's because she's scared, right? And sometimes when we speak to our children, they, their little head is telling them that we're rejecting them, that we don't love them. And a lot of parents, when I tell them that, they're like, but of course, why would they think that? Because it's a brain thing, right? Just like what I was talking to our little 4-year-old, right? The brain is made to protect us and to keep us alive, right? And sometimes it makes these generalizations about emotion, that emotion is dangerous, right? And the brain is not smart. It's a prediction machine, right? It uses past experiences to predict future events. So in the past, when she cries and she screams, you guys probably kind of go, okay, fine, and you leave, right? So it is a way to relieve the tension, right? The tension from having to have a conversation. So the next time you want to speak to her, start with, okay, baby. And then if her shoulders start doing this, or she starts doing like looking down, this is the looking down is the international symbol of guilt and pain, right? You just kind of wait and you go, okay, let's breathe first before we start talking. I'm going to breathe too, because we're going to calm. And then when she starts crying, just stop and bring her back to the body. Okay, you're crying. Let's take a moment to calm down. And then quiet. When the body gets, feelings have 2 things happening at the same time. Thoughts and memories of the other times that we have felt this way. Again, the brain is a prediction machine. It uses past experience to predict future events. And somatic experiences. Somatic being, we feel our feelings in our body. So just like I went through that little body scan before I came over here to answer questions, I want you to remember that her emotions live in her body too. So when she starts crying, she's like, no, stop, I don't want to talk about this, stop it. There's no talking to her, right? That's what you're telling me in your question. So in that moment, you have to say, oh, I know you feel in danger, but you're not in danger. Let's take a moment to calm down. And then you start breathing. And then you start calming down your nervous system, right? Like all of you guys don't even know me, and I started making that loud noise, and now my soothing tone is bringing your nervous system back. We as human beings are attached a lot by our nervous system, right? So when she starts crying, you put a hand on her lap or a hand on her shoulder, and then you go, okay, we're both gonna breathe. And then it's gonna take time. And it's a constant reminder that she's not in trouble. Okay, she's not in trouble. We're going to learn from our mistake. And keep that up and keep that up. So bring her back to her body and do a body scan or something of the sort. All right, so let me go over here to the chat box. I have a 13-year-old girl. She is adopted, and right now we are having a terrible time between us and her and me. She lies for everything and doesn't have empathy. Is this normal? Lying in adolescence is normal. Lying in childhood is normal. Children start to lie as early as 3 years old. So that's normal. The fight between the two of you may be more about you not changing, right? You not changing your approach in the freedoms that she may or may not have. So when a 13-year-old is pushing back, when a 13 and above is pushing back and has resorted to lying, it means that they're looking for freedom, right? So the best intervention is to have a family meeting and to sit with the other caregivers in the home and your adolescent, and to look at the routine and to say, okay, if you could have any freedoms in the world on this routine, what would you do, right? What would you want you to have a choice and ownership and responsibility of? And listen to the 13-year-old, right? If your head tells you, but if I let her do that, then she's never going to do la, 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 la. Remember what I said before. If she gives you an idea and in your head, you're thinking she's not responsible enough, she's not going to do that, I want you to let her prove you wrong. And I don't want you to say that to her. I want you to say, okay, we're going to try this, and we're going to try this for the next 2 weeks. And then after the next 2 weeks, we're going to do it again, right? So, but look in your routine, what are freedoms and think more choices and autonomy that your child can do. If there's a freedom that she wants that you're like, oh my God, you don't have the building blocks to get to this freedom yet, you tell her what are the things that she has to do to eventually get to this freedom. But for a lot of you, from 12 up, it's time to release the reins. It's time to begin, giving them more and more freedoms and autonomy. Because if not, then you end up with that crash and that lying. And usually that's the adolescent's way of saying, give me more space. So that would be my first. And also, if you want, you can go to stopparentingalone.com. Go to blogs, and in the search button, you could put teens, and you can see, the blogs that I've written on teens. That could also be very, very helpful for you to watch and pay attention to. Okay, let me go back to, let's see who wants to, and I have another question over here. How to encourage to study and finish their assignments on time? Well, it depends on the age group. So for children, kindergarten to second grade, homework is more about, it's not so much about the work and finishing the work, but creating the habit, right? So for those of you that have children kindergarten to second grade, make sure that the homework time is at the same time every day or most days, or at least in the pattern. I get home, I get a break, I get a 20-minute break, and then I sit down and do homework, and then you time it. How long? Email the teacher. How long should the homework take my child? The teacher will respond, about 22 minutes or 40 minutes. You put a timer. You let them sit, even if they're like this, without saying a word to them. This is kinder to second grade, right? Don't do your homework and get back. What are you doing? No, you put the timer goes off. You're like, okay, you didn't finish. Oh, I didn't finish, mommy, no. You put the homework away in the backpack. You send them to school the next day without homework. Okay. Studying is about teaching them what a test is. So a test is not about getting an A. Right? Just like your work is not about getting $150,000 salary, right? Maybe for some of you it is, but the positive psychologist theories know that you're going to be super happy with that awful job that makes you $150,000 approximately a year to 3 years. And by year 3, you're going to feel unfulfilled. And the reason for that is that for a lot of us, we have to feel fulfillment from inside of us, right? Intrinsic motivation, right? So what that means is that you have to describe to your children what a test is. And for them to have intrinsic motivation, it's like the test is not about an A. The test is not about being on the principal's honor roll. The test is to let us know what you have learned during the week, for the teacher to understand what you may need a little more work on, and for me and you to understand what study habits and what planning habits you may have. So get into like teaching them how to study and putting it in the routine rather than only talking about the results. The motivator has to be from within them, right? The motivator has to be that you have to feel frustrated, you have to feel annoyed, so that then you can make a decision to try your best and to feel pride when you're done. All right, so let me keep going over here. I have somebody that raised their hand. Let me see who has raised their hand. Okay, over here. Ask me your question. What's your question?
Hey, Lina, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, perfect. I kind of wrote it out. So I'll read it to you.
Okay.
My daughter is 8.5 years old and she's in love with electronics. She can spend hours coding on Scratch, hours playing Among Us, hours FaceTiming or chatting with friends, all of whom I know on Messenger Kids. On weekend, I'm more relaxed about, how long she can spend using electronics. But during the week, the rule is when you come home, you can check and answer your iMessages, but then it's homework, dinner, bath. And then if you're done, you can check electronics again. The impulse control is not totally mastered yet, so she wants to check messages or do coding so bad that she's been sneaking it and doing it behind our backs. Yesterday she lied twice about it. And so then before bed, I told her, I know you lied. She says all the time, you don't trust me? You don't trust me? And so I said, part of the exchange and the trust is you not lying to me. I'd rather you tell me, oh, Mom, I was just checking, Scratch will crit because I wanted to finish this code, whatever, than lie to me. And I told her, if she lies about it and she can't control herself, then we need to update the rules so that electronics are only allowed on weekends. But
Right.
She's asking for more chances, right? To see if she can figure it out. So
Right.
What to do?
Okay, so remember that, the impulse control is what's getting in the way of the discipline, right? So losing it for the weekend it's
no, not losing it for the weekend, but only having
on the weekend, right? You're showing me that you're having a hard time during the week, right?
Yeah.
So I don't want to do that for a child that we're holding their hand. Remember that with electronics, everybody with electronics, it's basically they have to build the muscle. Right. And the only way to build the muscle is by practicing. Right. Yeah. So if she has a night like she had that she messed up, then she doesn't give her 24 hours rather than only on the weekend. Right. And on the weekend, what's killing her is the brain's experience of having a free-for-all on the weekends. The only brains that can handle a free-for-all on the weekends are 15 and older.
Okay.
Right? So there has to be a restriction on the weekend as well. Right? You could give her more time because there's more time that day. But the fact that there's a free-for-all means that her brain has a memory of using it 100% of the day. And that's why it's tricking her and removing the impulse control during the week. So we're setting her up for failure. She's not ready to have a free-for-all on the weekend. Right? So I wouldn't remove the restrictions of the week because that's building the muscle of delaying gratification and building the muscle of controlling her impulse. But the fact that she has a free-for-all on the weekend is what's setting her up for failure. So deal with the weekend. And by the way, that was my solution with my kid, right? I had given him a free.
and say, you have an hour, go do whatever you want to do, and then confiscate, and then an hour in the afternoon again, or whatever.
Correct. And, you know, be more open to the FaceTime with the friends, because that's a little bit harder for her to plan. So like if all of a sudden, you know, one of the moms texts you, it's okay for her to use it, but it's the free for all on the weekend that's making it harder. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. So I'm going to do one last question over here in the Q&A. So the question is, my son has been lying often when I ask if he has homework or completed a task. Not sure how to correct this behavior. Okay. So the best way to handle, again, homework, the best way to handle homework is to put it in the routine. Put it in the routine, right? So every day homework gets done at the same time, always. The only people that we don't put the homework in the routine is for our teenagers, right? And I mean like 9th grade on up. 9th grade on up, I want you to have restrictions on lights out. You know, when is lights out, but how and what they do after school and how do they get to their work, I want you to stay out of it. Children middle school and younger, it's a certainty that, you know, we get home from soccer, you have a snack, you have homework, you have dinner, right? So you set up the time and you set up the routine. If they tell you, I did it, I don't have any homework, and then and believe them, always take their word for it, especially middle schoolers, right? The ones where we check their work and we check what it says on either a parent portal or a student agenda, they, you know, it's elementary and younger. Elementary and younger, we do double check their agenda. We can double check their portal, and slowly we decrease it. But middle school and up, we don't check the portal. We don't check the agenda. If you get an email from a teacher, then you address it, and back again to, hey, what happened? What was your thought process? Why did you miss this assignment? And if your child has been lying a lot, warn him that, you know, because there has been so many lies and because your teachers keep writing me that you haven't done your work, I am going to be checking the parent portal on Tuesdays to see the work that you have turned in and the work that you haven't turned in, and we can discuss about how it's happening. But the most important thing is to make sure that that homework and that homework time is placed into the routine. All right, guys, I ran out of time. Here, my hour's up. Thank you, thank you, thank you. This happens every month. You know, I take your questions and I answer them for fun and for free. If you love this, I recommend doing a parenting consultation with me. A parenting consultation with me is an hour and a half long. I do exactly what I just did right now, but it's about you, your family, your child. When you're done with that parenting consultation, you will have the why of the behavior, the solution to the behavior, and a plan to the behavior. And then that's what you will have when we're done. My parenting consultations are an hour and a half and they're $300. And if you would love to meet with me, go to stopparentingalone.com, hit contact, hit schedule, and fill out that form and we'll give you a call. The other thing that I highly recommend, and it's $49 a month, or is my online parenting support. It's a private Facebook group where you ask questions online, and within 24 to 48 hours, I answer them personally. So if something happens at 3 o'clock in the morning and you're like, oh my God, my child isn't breastfeeding, in the morning or within 48 hours, I will answer that question for you. On Tuesdays, I have this every single Tuesday at 1 o'clock, and I answer your questions. You can do, up the membership and see me one-on-one as well. But for all of that, you can go to onlineparentingsupport.com. And what I like to say is that you're going to have me in your cell phone whenever you wonder, is this normal? So that's it for me. Thank you for joining me today, and I will see you guys next month. And just go to our events page, and you will be able to see when the next one of this is. All right. Thank you. Until next time.